Thank you, Dennis. We'll see you shortly. Under guardianship in Florida, a stranger can take you to court and have all of your rights taken away, even if you have family members who are willing to care for you. I-Team investigator Adam Walser uncovers the financial and emotional costs guardianship can bring.
My grandaunt is Janita Dirce.
Ganita Dirce lived and built her American dream at this small hotel beside one of Florida's best beaches.
She had a rental business in St. Pete Beach in the Don Cesar area, and she was doing very well.
She was out there every single day when she was in her 80s, out there sweeping.
Kept it all clean around here, always had a smile on her face.
Dirce's great-nephew, Getty Picaun, has helped.
I lived with my grandaunt or nearby for almost 15 years, and she's like my mother.
Getty moved from Lithuania as a teen and lived rent-free at the Dirce Hotel through college and grad school.
He was, helping with the property and cooking meals and cleaning, and he was doing everything.
He took care of her, she took care of him. That's what family does.
Lieutenant Tim Everett says the hotel was Dirce's version of paradise.
She enjoyed it so much here, I think she'd rather be here than anywhere else.
She went down to the beach and swam every day. She loved it out here.
This home video shows Dirce dancing at a nearby beach bar. But as Hurricane Irma approached in September 2017, there was trouble in paradise.
It started with a real estate agent who was pushing her to sell her property.
Getty flew to Lithuania for a family emergency, and realtor Diana Sames showed up at the hotel.
She never knew her. She was never a friend to her. I never saw her over there helping Jeannie or doing anything.
How many times did you see Diane Sames over here before the hurricane?
None at all.
Everett says he overheard Dirce refusing to list her property with Sames.
Jeannie would say, I know sell.
But when the hurricane arrived, Sames took Dirce to ride out the storm at her former client's house across the street from her hotel. Months after the hurricane, Dirce sold one of her 3 buildings to her great-nephew Getty for a below-market price of $50,000, closing at a title company in front of a notary and witnesses. Sames went to a lawyer and asked a judge to declare Dirce incapacitated, claiming Getty exploited her. In court documents, Sames misspelled Ganita's first name and wrote, her language is unknown and she speaks English with a heavy accent. Sames also described herself to the judge as a close neighbor to Dirce, but you can barely see her hotel from drone footage shot above Sames' home, since it's 0.6 of a mile away. As court proceedings progressed, Dirce reported unwanted visits from Sames.
911, is it the police, fire, or medical emergency? This is the apartment hotel. Diana Sames come all the time here, very bad woman, talking too much.
Sames initially declined our interview request, but we caught up with her outside her office.
I'm Adam with ABC Action News. We've emailed back and forth. I wanted to talk to you about Miss Dirce. Why you wanted to be involved in the guardianship
Excuse
process.
me, I was so happy to involve myself with the corruption that I saw from...
So you thought the nephew was corrupt, Getty was corrupt?
No, he was dishonest. He didn't contact any of the family members, and he did it by himself, and it was against her will.
Sames denied she had any interest in Dirce's property.
All I care about is Jenny Dirce. I don't care about any other dramas that she's been taken care of, and it was very important to protect her interests.
Judge Pam Campbell declared Dirce incapacitated, took away her rights, and placed her in guardianship to protect her from her great-nephew.
He was taking property from Mrs. Dirce for less than fair market value during this time of the guardianship being established. So that does raise concerns about Mrs. Dirce's right mind.
The judge appointed Tracy Samuel, now known as Tracy Hudson, to be Dirce's guardian, who would be paid from Dirce's funds. The guardian used Dirce's money to sue Getty, filing an eviction lawsuit and trying to reverse the sale of the hotel.
Trying to get her hotel back, she didn't sell it to him.
Hudson initially hired caregivers to take care of Dirce at the hotel, but then this happened.
Let's go! I don't care if you try to hurt me. I try to help you. Let's go! Let's go! I'm going to save you in my magic. Let's go! Bye-bye. Okay, we'll stay here. Stop yelling. Let's stay here. Bye.
Getty reported the incident to police, but no charges were filed. Dearsay was moved into assisted living, where Getty was prevented from seeing or communicating with her.
She doesn't want him to visit. I'm respecting the privacy of her.
In November 2019, Dearsay's guardian, known then as Tracy Hudson, was arrested, accused of stealing more than $500,000 from a 92-year-old man under her care. Authorities say she used the money to buy this house, Tampa Bay Bucks tickets, and jewelry.
That case that she was charged with is a power of attorney case, so totally different from our guardianship cases.
Hudson has not been charged in the Dearsay case, but the judge assigned Dearsay a new guardian. Court documents show that new guardian discovered Dearsay had not been to an eye doctor nor dentist while under Hudson's care. As for Dearsay's home, the guardian wrote, "Nothing has been done, not even food out of the refrigerator." Speechless. And Hudson failed to turn over Dearsay's tax returns, family contact numbers, bank statements, canceled checks, keys, and dozens of other items, despite a judge's order. Then, in late April, Getty got the news he feared most.
And I see on my phone pop up message, email message, saying that my aunt is hospitalized and infected with coronavirus. My heart said, no, this is not good news. The problem is we had an order, no visitation order.
Tell me what you did to try to talk to her the last, especially after you found out she was sick with coronavirus.
I started communication with my attorney to talk to her and be able to see her, visit on a video call or regular call.
Dearsay died less than a week later. Getty didn't talk to her during the last year and a half of her life.
She left her beach home and worked around it until she was moved to an assisted living facility. We wish that the last 2 years away from her family and her home would not be lost to her, that things could have been different for her and for all of us.
Dearsay was entombed next to her late husband, one of 7,000 Floridians associated with Florida long-term care facilities to die from COVID-19.
And now we have the results. And the results were getting worse and worse and worse. And on May 5th, we end up with my aunts, who's like my mother, death, which is, it cannot be even worse. Can be worse.
Court records show guardians and lawyers billed Dearsay $287,648 in less than 2 years. Adam Walser, taking action for you.
That's Mark, and that's Andy. They put on a good front.
Mary Homerding never suspected her neighbors were child sex traffickers.
They were always polite. They even joking around.
Because they would ride by in the golf cart and wave.
Nobody in this quiet 55 and older mobile home park suspected a group of 6 men had been keeping 2 teen boys in this trailer starting in 2017.
They were really nice, you know, that's what the shocking part is.
Neighbors said they were surprised the men got away with it for so long because the boys were being held in that blue trailer just a few feet away from the neighborhood trash containers, which many of the residents of this 600-unit complex use multiple times a week.
I've never seen the kids.
Yeah, as many times I went to the garbage can because they live right across from the garbage can. I never heard anything, never seen anything out of order.
Police say the men in the trailer and another woman in north central Florida used video games and online apps like Omegle, Roblox, and Discord to find and communicate with their victims.
The majority of people playing games are boys, and that's how our boys are lured in.
A 2016 study funded by the U.S. Department of Justice estimates 36% of child sex trafficking victims are boys. The first victim was a 16-year-old boy from Marion County.
The teenage victim in this case was lured away from his family with promises of a better life. Instead, he was moved into a filthy trailer and used as a sex slave for nearly a year.
The boy first met these 2 men, Mark Dennis and Andrew Clements, at their 2017 wedding. Police say he was brought to the wedding by a family friend
Eleanor McGlamory, who is charged with conspiracy in the case. Dennis and Clements immediately started texting the boy using Discord and picked him up at his home 140 miles away 3 weeks later. Police say they disabled his cell phone so he couldn't be tracked, then gave him a new name, birthday, and backstory.
And the kid was polite. He seemed happy.
Humberding says she only saw the boy once, riding a golf cart with Clements.
He introduced him as his adopted son, and the boy agreed.
Did you think it was odd that you didn't see him for months and months after that?
Well, I figured it didn't work out.
People are so busy that they go about their life and they don't always look at clues or look at signs that something could be wrong.
Police say Dennis, Clements, their roommates Curtis Gruwell and Michael Schwartz, and associates Michael Blasdell and J.R. Gauthier were involved in the trafficking ring. They say 4 of the 6 men repeatedly raped the boy inside the trailer.
Yeah, I asked him if there was anything going on because it seemed like he was really depressed.
Abigail Ackerman met the victim and traffickers at a pagan festival where she says Mark Dennis offered to pay her $2,000 to make the boy a fantasy costume.
They wanted me to make him a blue and white husky suit for his birthday.
And she said the men showered the boy with other gifts.
Buying expensive things like game consoles, a full-blooded husky puppy that they bought him.
Well, that's part of the grooming process, and that's part of, even though there might not be physical chains around a victim, around a person, they have mental and emotional chains around a person.
Police say they found whips, leather masks, and bondage tools inside the trailer. According to police reports, Mark Dennis called himself Grand Master and referred to the others as his pups, who made up what he referred to as his family circle.
We all have this deep-rooted sense that we want to have family.
But police recovered text messages showing the boy was unhappy. "I'm stressed to high hell. I don't want sex all the time," the boy said nearly a year into captivity. "Which is such a shame when such a tight group of people who love you have come into your life," one of his abusers replied. Then in 2018, they met a new victim online, a 17-year-old Louisiana boy they convinced to come live with them. Eleanor McGlamory and Curtis Gruwell drove about 10 hours to pick the boy up in the woods near his rural Louisiana home in the dead of night, court records show. 3 days later, Louisiana police found the boys' online messages and rescued both boys from the trailer. Now all 6 men are facing charges of conspiracy to commit human trafficking.
It's very, very important that we teach our children not to give out personal information.
Experts say parents should monitor their kids' online activity, especially messages with any strangers.
They have a computer in their hands that they're opened up to anything and everything in the entire world.
We posted more information on how to protect your kids on abcactionnews.com. As for the people charged with trafficking these boys, they're currently behind bars awaiting trial, and 3 have entered into plea deals in exchange for their testimony. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser, taking action for you. In November 2000, election night in Florida stretched past Thanksgiving Day as elections officials tried to interpret dimples and hanging chads on butterfly ballots. 20 years later, experts warn the outcome of another close election could depend on how well the signature on your mail-in ballot envelope matches the one on file at the elections office. Pinellas County voter Alec Wilkowski says his ballot was rejected days before the recent primary.
And they told me that there was some sort of mix-up with my ballot, that the signature didn't match the one they had on file.
Wilkowski scrambled to get a copy of his driver's license and what's called a vote-by-mail cure affidavit to the elections office by Election Day.
So yeah, it kind of created a little bit of a stressful situation right before. I'm like, is my vote going to count? Is it not going to count?
Dr. Daniel Smith conducted research for the University of Florida, in which he uncovered 1.2% of vote-by-mail ballots. About 32,000 votes were rejected in Florida's 2018 election.
You're not there. And so we entrust that the signature on the back of your envelope as a registered voter is going to match what's on the records of the supervisor of elections.
Smith found rejection rates varied widely across Florida counties, from 0.25% in some counties to 3% in others, with signatures of younger, older, and minority voters more likely to be rejected.
There's incredible variation across all different types of demographic groups that raise concerns.
In 2018, the winning margin for Rick Scott over Bill Nelson in the U.S. Senate race was just over 10,000 votes out of 8 million ballots cast. The Democratic Party filed a lawsuit to extend the recount, claiming Florida's rejection of vote-by-mail ballots is based on error-prone signature matching determinations. Last year, state lawmakers passed reforms to the process, allowing voters whose ballots are rejected to provide additional information to, quote, cure their ballots. Ron Turner is the Sarasota County election supervisor.
We will send a letter. We will email if we have an email address. We will call them if we have a telephone number and or text message.
Turner said many ballots with issues in his county were corrected before the deadline in the recent primaries.
We ended up rejecting a total of 170 ballots.
But in neighboring Manatee County, 1,000 ballots were rejected. Dr. Smith says about 20,000 primary mail-in ballots were rejected statewide.
And so you could be using a signature, the exact same signature with the exact same signature that's on file, and in one county it is deemed not valid, in the other it is valid.
In Sarasota County, computers determine whether most signatures match.
We're going to take that vote by mail signature on that envelope, and we're going to compare it to what the voter has in their record.
That signature in the voter record may have come from the DMV, one of the most common places to register to vote.
And you're using a little stylus and you're trying to get your signature in. When I look at my driver's license signature, it doesn't look anything like my signature.
If a computer can't make a good match,
then that goes to human sets of eyes.
Forensic document examiner Sina Wong says county elections officials may not know what to look for.
You have people in the elections office that are doing a job comparing signatures which they are not qualified to do, and that is of great concern.
Sina Wong testified about the infamous ransom note in a civil trial connected to the John Benet Ramsey murder case, and in a 2018 Virginia election fraud case in which congressional candidate Sean Brown was removed from the ballot after Wong found hundreds of forged signatures on a petition to qualify her for the election. Wong says our signatures change over time and can be affected by age, illness, injury, medication, mood, or even the type of pen we use. President Donald Trump, for instance, prefers to sign documents with a felt-tipped pen. You can see big differences in these 3 signatures. These are 4 signatures from Richard Nixon during his presidency.
In the very last one, he decided to send in a ballot, and would get rejected because it would not match the signature that's on file.
Wong says it takes experts years to know how to tell if a signature is real or a forgery.
Our official title is Forensic Document Examiner.
Handwriting expert Tom Vastrick agrees verifying signatures can be tricky.
I pull out an old college paper. I can hardly recognize my own handwriting.
Vastrick, who has more than 40 years of experience as a forensic document examiner, was hired by the state in 2019 to train election supervisors in how to verify signatures, training that was not previously required.
What I'm going to teach you is a way to view handwriting differently than you have in the past, a more methodical approach.
The initial training, which lasted 1 hour and 47 minutes, took place at a conference in Orlando last October, attended by about 200 elections officials.
When they come out of there, what level of expertise do they have?
Well, compared to a forensic document examiner, they don't. But for an average layperson, it's fairly significant.
Ron Turner, who was among 200 elections officials Vastrick trained, says he learned plenty.
That we have to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this isn't the voter's signature.
But Wong fears there could still be too many questionable signatures, coming in too late to all be cured.
It is serious, and it should be taken seriously, and the work shouldn't be done by people without proper training.
Elections officials say that if you plan to vote by mail and have not updated your signature in recent years, you should do so before the election. They also remind voters to make sure to sign the outside of that ballot envelope and include their phone number and email so the elections office can contact them as soon as possible if there is a problem. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser taking action for you.
But as I-Team investigator Adam Walser uncovers, that former CEO was not the only executive charging you for a high roller's lifestyle.
Would you be able to work without Hart?
No.
Hillsborough Area Regional Transit, or HART buses, haul thousands of passengers a day to their most important destinations.
If a bus doesn't come at the right time, I don't make it to my doctor's appointment.
But even if you don't ride, taxpayers fork over nearly $100 million a year to HART.
The current state of HART is strong.
That's former CEO Ben Limmer before he resigned, following an investigation completed in February that cost taxpayers $100,000.
I wanted to stand up and personally stress to each and every one of you how deeply apologetic I am over all of these transgressions.
Those transgressions included giving a contractor an unfair advantage by allowing the firm to write its own $3 million contract and charging taxpayers thousands of dollars for meals and hotel stays. But even before Limmer's departure, HART had been in the news for the wrong reasons. A driver was murdered on the job last May. Others seriously injured.
Your new at 11, attacked on the job. A HART bus driver is in the hospital after a passenger slashes him with a box cutter.
Low ridership resulted in route cuts and delays. And as Hillsborough County grew by more than 100,000 people, HART lost 3 million riders a year.
Mr. Limmer, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you here.
Limmer was brought in to turn it all around. He was paid $210,000 a year. On top of that, he dined at some of Tampa Bay's most elite restaurants while taxpayers picked up the tab. We showed those charges and menus from those restaurants to riders. 126 one day, 41 the next.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
What's that?
Atlantic salmon, chicken piccata. In just 7 months on the job, Limmer charged meals at Cooper's Hawk, the Steelbach and Armature Works, Carne Chop House, the Capitol Grill, and Malio's.
It's wrong to do this and use taxpayers' money to do this kind of thing.
But that wasn't all investigators found. Limmer racked up an $1,100 bill at Tampa Marriott Waterside during a conference. And he lives in Tampa.
You've got to be kidding me.
Nope.
That's insane.
But it wasn't just Limmer charging big bucks on HART's credit cards. The I-Team uncovered other HART executives racking up expenses for overseas trips and restaurant meals. Credit card records show these executives spent $500,000 on food and travel in 5 years, flying to Paris, Toronto, Seattle, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and New York. The I-Team asked HART for detailed expense records, and we're still waiting for answers. Among the hotels where they stayed, the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, and the Waldorf hotels. How much did you think you paid, Hart?
I didn't think I paid anything.
Fares cover just 11% of HART's operations. Your federal, state, and local taxes make up most of the rest. Retired teacher Chris Hickman sees the need for public transportation, but doesn't believe in waste.
We could have used that in the schools instead of paying somebody to go out to lunch or dinner or whatever.
Did they give you a P card you could use at the chop house of the school district?
No free lunches.
HART's interim CEO Carolyn House Stewart refused our interview request to talk about the spending. So did HART board chairman Les Miller, who said he was too busy to talk.
Adam Walser.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and board. So I shared our findings with the full board. And we found a pattern of executives going and staying at lots of fancy hotels where some of the room nights were about $600 each. But the board did not respond. Thank you so much.
We're going to move now to welcome our newest member to the board.
Eventually, our crew caught up with Miller as he was leaving the meeting.
Can we get you in a little bit? No, sir. I don't have time, okay? Okay. No, I don't have time. Yeah.
Well, I think we have to ask the question, sir.
I don't have to answer it.
During an elevator ride, Miller finally offered a few words.
What would you say to the taxpayers? Should they be confident in HART going forward?
HART's in the right direction. We have an interim CEO who's doing a fantastic job, and that's basically all I really have to say.
Do you think they should look back at all the travel policies and people going to all these fake?
But right now, we're doing the right thing and moving in the right direction.
4 days after that meeting, a Hart spokesperson emailed us a statement saying its employees regularly attend trainings and added the agency is now reviewing its credit card policy. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser taking action for you.
Welcome back. A retired engineer put into a guardianship years ago is pleading to get his rights restored after a licensed psychiatrist says that he is capable of caring for himself.
But ABC Action News investigator Adam Walser has uncovered legal challenges have prevented that doctor's opinion from even being considered.
So this is home sweet home?
Yeah.
This extended stay hotel has been Doug Keegan's home for 2 years.
Okay, so this is the kitchen. It's small, but it's got a microwave and a toaster oven.
744, that's the Florida guardianship statute.
Right.
Yeah.
Keegan has a makeshift law library on his fridge. His ride to the courthouse is parked by the door.
And transportation, my bike. Occasionally I take the bus.
And these binders contain copies of legal pleadings Keegan sent to judges.
Probably where I spend, 80% of my time. So I work on my laptop.
So Mr. Keegan can't do that. He doesn't have any rights.
Attorney Kyle Fletcher represents Keegan's guardian and is paid $350 an hour from Keegan's funds.
He's incapacitated, okay, which means he actually doesn't understand anything you say.
But in September, Judge Alan Apt questioned that after Keegan filed this 12-page report.
I set this hearing because I believed you had some capacity. Do you believe that you have capacity?
Absolutely. I'm just trying to inform the court that he does not have mental ability to understand logic. He doesn't grasp what the judge is saying, if you understand what I'm saying.
The guardian's attorney wanted to appoint a court-appointed attorney, which I knew would be useless. I said, no. I said, I want my own attorney. And so after he said, do you know anyone? And I said, yeah, I know this Leslie Law.
Keegan met attorney Leslie Federigos through a guardianship reform Facebook group.
He's clearly got capacity. He's, been involved in this for 6 years, and he has tried multiple times, including from himself, to get out of this.
Keegan's guardianship started after he married a woman from Kenya who his family believed was financially exploiting him.
He found a Nigerian woman to marry off of Craigslist, the in-person Nigerian scam.
Contrary to Fletcher's assertion, Keegan says it was a legitimate marriage.
I had known her for a year. I brought her to my mom's house for Christmas dinner the year before.
We spoke to his ex-wife from Kenya, where she was visiting family over the Christmas holiday. She said she first came to the United States in 2002 and became a citizen in 2009, and she also confirmed it was a legitimate marriage. Keegan's family also sought guardianship because he had a history of alcohol abuse, which led to him being hospitalized.
Because I have a problem with alcohol, which is irrelevant to guardianship. You could be a gambler, you could be, morbidly obese, you could have a million problems. That's not a reason for saying put him in guardianship because he may hurt himself.
One doctor who evaluated him in 2014 says his drinking doesn't rise to the level of guardianship. But months later, a judge declared Keegan incapacitated.
They went in there and they stripped me of all my rights. They took all my money, took all my rights away from me.
You're a professional person.
I'm an engineer, electrical engineer, yeah.
Keegan's lucrative consulting work enabled him to buy a condo with cash and retire early. Now more than $200,000 he saved has gone to pay guardians and attorneys, while Keegan is only allowed to shop at certain places with a restricted debit card.
I'm allowed Denny's, McDonald's, Subway, Golden Corral, Chick-fil-A. And then there's a Dollar Tree I can go to.
They have him in a plenary guardianship, basically stating that he has no capacity to have any of his normal rights, but he's living in a motel with no supervision.
Well, Dr. Sieg, who is a psychiatrist, in other words, he's a medical doctor, determined that he had frontal lobe dementia.
That was in 2015. The Mayo Clinic says doctors should use blood tests, sleep studies, and brain scans to diagnose frontal lobe dementia. But Dr. Sieg's report doesn't indicate he did any of that.
What kind of test did he do to see that Mr. Keegan had this, do you know?
I do not know, but I know that the psychiatrist usually reviews all his medical history, okay?
Dr. C's report says he didn't talk to Keegan's regular doctor.
That diagnosis was very suspect, based only on a very cursory examination.
Retired internal medicine Dr. Sam Sugar founded Americans Against Abusive Probate Guardianships and has known Keegan for 3 years.
There's no evidence now that he suffers from any kind of dementia. So it's imperative that the court understand that people can recover, people can get better, and they no longer need the guardianship.
Judge App signed an order allowing Keegan to be evaluated by a psychiatrist from Boca Raton. That doctor determined Keegan had full capacity. Attorney Fletcher objected to not being properly notified and got a hearing with a different judge who overturned the doctor's appointment and appointed the doctor Fletcher recommended to evaluate Keegan.
They're contesting the doctor's report because he didn't get evaluated by the doctor they wanted him to be evaluated by.
And that is the modus operandi of this lawyer who goes around in other cases doing the same thing, finding someone she wants rather than what the parties agree upon or who's on the appointed list.
Why do you think it's important to use only the attorneys that are on your list there for your county and only the doctors that are on your list there for your county?
That's the way the law is.
And if the judge rejects it out of hand because he's not on some list, I think that tells you everything you need to know.
Dr. Sugarman seems to me is to be a bizarre person who absolutely has no idea what goes on in the law.
Keegan's attorney requested another hearing with Judge Apt. At that hearing, the judge picked a physician to evaluate Keegan from among 6 doctors offered by the two sides.
After all, what's at stake but a man's life? No big deal.
That was after Dr. Sugar sent the judge a letter asking the judge to grant Mr. Keegan a full and comprehensive reevaluation with an independent, third-party, fully qualified physician.
He's probably about as competent as Mr. Keegan.
It's horrible. You know, and anyone high level in government should be horrified by what they're seeing here in the courts.
I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser taking action for you.
Keegan is expected to be evaluated by the new doctor next month.